Osmosis Jones. I don't think I was going to talk about this film for another day, or in this case I already made several videos talking about it, but in this case it turns out that there's a lot of interesting lost media about this. Some have been found, but most, but if not all of this, is just lost, and I thought I'd spread awareness about this. From Japanese dubs to lost versions of the movie. Alright, just like most TV shows, in this case there are some dubs that do exist, some are found, and some are lost. In this case, there's apparently a Japanese dub of Ozzy and Drix. There's only a few things of this that was found, mainly the ad for it that was just found. And there's nothing much about this dub, since there's like a lot of stuff of this that's kind of lost. But just like most TV shows, sometimes some of these dubs will somewhat be lost for a long time until we eventually find more stuff from it. Alright, time for the most interesting piece of this video. In this case, that being the movie's soundtrack, because believe it or not, there are several songs that weren't even fully released, or at the same time, the instrumental, and I'll explain some of that. Noting when this film came out, they had a lot of famous songs, and a couple of famous singers and popular songs on board, like Summer in the City, and if I'm right, they also had Brandy Norwood make one exclusive song for the film. And then we also got that god-awful Kid Rock song that was played in the film. Why do we need that? Warner Bros., why did you have to push that into the movie? You could have had another song. Anyways, one of the songs they play in the film is called Hot Blooded by Foreigner, but in this case, they made a remix version of it by Phil Sterling. This version of it was played in the chase scene at the beginning of the film, and sadly this track hasn't been fully released, meaning the only way to hear it is in the movie or a heavily edited audio version of it on YouTube. Speaking of the movie's instrumental track itself hasn't even been fully released. Not even the main theme for the movie. Even though what's really surprising is that The Iron Giant, which came out, remind you, 2 years before this film came out, its full soundtrack, both instrumental and songs that were played, were released, where this film didn't. I don't know. It seems like Warner Bros. Doesn't really want to think of this film, because why else would they not release the soundtrack for this film or release the track for Iron Giant? It's kind of confusing. And then, the third song of this track that was never released, but it's the most mysterious one because there is hardly any info about it. In this case, that being the song called Pump and Snap by Control Freck. And this is played during the Drax chase scene in the film. And theoretically, it has lyrics. If you listen closely to the song in the movie, you could hear a voice in the instrumental track. But also for the trailers, they actually do play the song, and there's also lyrics. Take a listen. At the same time, just like the Hot Blooded remix and the instrumental soundtrack, they all haven't been released at all, and in this case are lost. Now time to talk about some found media, even though this is literally a lost media video. Did you know that in early development of the movie, there was meant to be a line of toys made by Trendmasters to go along with the movie's release, but sadly they were cancelled as according to many sources, it was because of the movie being a box office bomb, but also apparently because they said that if the movie made, and I quote, $65 million, they would make the line, but sadly the film only made $14 million, making it one of the biggest box office bombs to ever be released. There was also meant to be a lot of merchandise and action figures that were made of Osmosis Jones, Drix, and Thrax. And also there's going to be small and large versions of it, a Drix head keychain, an Ozzy and Leah statue, a strange balloon thing, and also capsule figures of all the characters, not including Tom, because why would we? This is basically found in media, but I'm starting to think it's kind of lost because there's most likely more merchandise that was made. I'm guessing Osmosis Jones was shown across the world, and that somehow caused popularity since, according to some sources, in Japan, they actually had an Ozzy and Drix doujin. Not a manga, but apparently in some Japanese magazines, there had a few pages of this, and only one was found, and it's of Ozzy and Drix and Maria finding Spryman. And sadly, this is the only page that we currently have. And if anyone else has any pages of these, please contact the Lost Media Wiki, or in this case, the Osmosis Jones community. Now it's time to talk about the one piece of lost media that everyone's most likely interested in when it goes to this movie. that being the PG-13 cut of the film. In the early development of the film, it was originally going to be more edgy and dark, but was later altered. The animated process started around mid to late 1999 and would have been released by Thanksgiving of 2000, according to a news article and some sources. But then there were some development hell issues. In this case, around the 2000s, they were actually given a PG-13 rating due to boily humors and crude language. Which then Warner Bros. Was unpleased to hear this, so they ended up having to make some changes to the movie in order to make it more family-oriented, turning the rating to only PG due to boily humors. Which then the movie finally released in August of 2001. I already talked about some of this in my Osmosis Jones deleted scenes video, but in short, there are only a few remains of his existence. A couple of deleted and unfinished scenes, like with Cyril, the nose scene, and the chase scene that was meant to be extended, and also Ozzy actually swearing in the original version of the film. Also, according to several sources, there was actually more deleted scenes, like for example a part where it actually had the testicles and made a sperm cell, and in a scene where Fleming would have confessed all his wrongdoings. Other than those deleted scenes, and also this promo that was made around 1999 and 2000 that shows the movie development in an early state, which makes me question if this was the PG-13 version of the film or either the other version they planned to do before the Farley brothers took over the project. Mentioned before, it's worth noting that the full signature cut of the Iron Giant has been released a couple years ago, while the full PG-13 cut has not been released to this day. The most obvious reason why that Warner Bros. Is probably not going to release this full PG-13 cut of the film was because of the fact that this film was a huge box office bomb and a disaster for them. So them re-releasing a film that didn't make a lot of money wouldn't probably be a good idea for them. And now, finally, for the last part of this video, the mysterious rash outbreak. This is the last piece of the Osmosis Jones media video, and around the early 2001, before the movie was released, there was a flash game that was made known as Osmosis Jones Mysterious Rash Outbreak that was made to help promote the film. The story of the game kind of takes place before. It's kind of confusing. It takes place either during or before or the movie. I don't know. In this case, it could be a Jeremy Bearimy case. I'm not sure. Let's give extra detail about the film and its details, but there's also several remains of the lost PG-13 version, like we mentioned before, like characters swearing.
Get your nuclear ass in my office, now!
Oi, for Frank's sake, I'm really getting too old for this
And also at the same time, their excess goons from the movie are actually all named after STDs in the Flash game, and also in early storyboards of the film. But sadly, this point-and-click adventure Flash game is actually lost media. It has footage of it has recently surfaced, but sadly trying to get this to work on a modern computer is difficult, making this a difficult piece of lost media.